believe that Canada should become a part of the United States. So, as someone from the United States who's visiting here in Canada, I want to let you know that a few of us are actually thinking about plans to incorporate Canada into the United States. Then we could use the same money and not like this kind of silly loonies. What's a loony?
Next time you're in the Toronto area, visit MuchMusic at Queen and John Streets and speak your mind on Speaker's Corner. Open 24 hours a day. It only costs $1 and all money goes to charity.
Welcome back to MuchMusic, otherwise known as Banecdotes. I'm your VJ host, Phil Paxton. This is my co-VJ host, Ty. How you doing, buddy?
Whoa! What's going on, everybody?
Yeah!
Whoa!
Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Later in the show, we get into the sensation that happened on cable television on Channel 29, MuchMusic. I'm stoked to talk about it. If any Americans are watching this channel, you're probably asking yourself, what is that? Well, we'll get into the big depths of it, but in a broad sense, it was the Canadian version of MTV. Now, we'll leave it right there, and we'll definitely get more into it later in the show. But first up, we've got some local releases. Bant, bant, bant.
I guess I'll start us off here. We have the Toronto team-up of the year happening. Constrain and Loose Teeth, very sonically different bands, came together. They put out an EP that just is called Constrain and Loose Teeth. And it's like a sometimes mathy Scrams EP. It's really, really interesting. What do you think?
I loved this matchup. This was like a modern day switcheroo. Like, you rarely see bands actually doing a split together, but you could tell in this case, you know, these bands got together and wrote songs together. What I especially loved about this release was Cinco. His vocals, they're so relentless. I've mentioned on the show before, he's been on the show before. I've had the pleasure of working with him at an old job. That's how I actually got to know him. I pride myself on being able to do those high screams and those high pitched stuff, and I think I can confidently say that, like, Cinco is one other person in the scene that can just get up there right there with me. Alex and Loose Teeth can get up there too, don't get me wrong, but like Cinco has those like drop dead gorgeous vocals, which I vividly remember you making fun of me listening to in high school.
I didn't mind Drop Dead Gorgeous. Are you sure?
I'm positive, because I remember you Dressed for Friend Request. You're like, that's such a stupid song title. And
It is pretty dumb. It is pretty dumb. Yeah, no, this I found this reminded me a lot of like First Record, A Static Lullaby, Funeral for a Friend, Orchid, From Autumn to Ashes. They're going to get brought up a lot in this episode. A lot of bands sounded like From Autumn to Ashes in this week's episode. But, yeah, those screams, they're like that throaty, trebly, like it's a whole different beast. It sounds tough on the throat. But, it has such an impact when you really give it that, like, full, just, like, trebly blast. You know what I mean? It's like a really, like, emotive scream. And I just think these bands create such an interesting parallel to run beside each other, because Loose Teeth is like a mathcore band, I'd say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just a heavy, blistering mathcore band. And I was really interesting to hear what it was going to sound like. And the EP sounds like a Constrain EP, but like they're consulting Loose Teeth for heavy parts. Like it's really cool.
Yeah, that's funny, and it's cool that like there's Constrain songs and then there's Constrain and Loose Teeth songs, and I don't think there's a single Loose Teeth song on there.
No.
Which is interesting. It's just like this entity, and I was even getting some early like Only Chasing Safety era of Under Oath. Like, this was a great EP. I was jamming it at work. I was bobbing to it. It's heavy. It's aggressive. And if anyone likes any of the bands that we've already mentioned, there's not a doubt in my mind that you're not gonna like this.
Yeah, no, this was totally sick. Again, very unexpected release. I really did not know what I was getting into it. I figured that I'd like it, and I did.
Next up, we have Pneumonia Breath with their songs Broken Foundation and Existence's Pain. They are a Toronto mathcore band. This was great, well-produced metalcore with like the modern edge on it. These songs I could see myself going bananas to live. They're probably a great band live. I haven't had a chance to see them, or if they haven't played, keep your eyes peeled. But this was great, really energetic and aggressive.
Yeah, these two songs were fucking awesome. First and foremost, I gotta figure... I don't know whether they have some sort of, like, crazy hookup or these guys are stacking some bills or something, but having Mike from The Devil Wears Prada on a song is pretty insane. That's a pretty high-profile individual. And Mike, I've always liked The Devil Wears Prada. I know they're having a revisionist history now, but I've always liked Mike's vocals so much. I think he has such a unique voice, and he leans into his like talking voice and his screams in such an interesting way. Like, The Devil Wears Prada has released very their first few records are like awful, but man, they have some really consistently good albums moving like as their careers went on.
I had no clue Mike from Devil Wears Prada was on these. What song was he on?
He was on, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I didn't write them down. Come on. It's not Broken Foundation. So
Existence Pain.
Yeah, because Mike's the one who yells that part.
Really?
Yeah,
I was listening to this just like off of like a Bluetooth speaker at work, and I actually didn't have like... Does it say like even on the track in Spotify, like featuring? That is so sick.
Mike Ranaka, yeah.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, that's cool. That makes these songs extra cool. I think there is a website or a feature or like something like an app that lets you like I don't know, not necessarily connect, but it's like Cameo
for musicians,
before musicians and guest artists, and so like I think it's from all the way from like heavy music to rap.
Yeah, no, they paid Mike to spit 16 bars.
Or they know him, for whatever reason, you know.
Yeah, it could be possible. Also, I mean, not to overshadow... Existence is Pain is a great song, but I don't want to overshadow the second song, or first song. I don't know how that was ordered. But Broken Foundation is like a slam dance anthem. That's going to be like the set-off song. Like, I remember when I heard these guys' first EP, I was like... blown away that a band could have like a first release sound that well produced, be that tightly written. Like, these guys are crazy. I don't know if this is leading up to like an EP or an album, but yeah, like these guys haven't released a bad track yet, and I think these two, no, I can't even compare. Every single track they've released is good, and these two, it's just two more to add to the pile of great songs. I'm sure seeing these guys live, like, there's not a moment to breathe when these guys play. I can't imagine. So next up we have a melodic hardcore band from Ottawa. They're throwing it back to the early sort of MySpace emo scrams era. This is Carissa with their 2-song single, Sunsets. Yeah, this is some straight MySpace profile song music.
Yeah, this is that's what I thought. Like, did we hop into a time machine and walk out into 2002 and this is where we're hearing this? Like, even the song quality kind of sounds like it's from that era. Mm-hmm. Like, everything about this reminded me of Skinny Jeans, like you said, MySpace. The structure of the song, the like present chug breakdowns, the name of the band Carissa is even like reminds me of bands like Vanna, Kennedy, like Norma Jean, like that like trend of just like the one word Catherine. Yeah. So I love that this is happening that way, and that's what I loved. That's what I got out of these two tracks. I didn't know that they were from Ottawa. That's cool.
Yeah, and I said I was going to mention From Autumn to Ashes a lot on this list, because there's a lot of bands kind of pulling from them. But this band, out of every single one of the ones I'm going to mention, like, this sounds like a lot like Too Bad You're Beautiful era From Autumn to Ashes. Like, the barky vocals, the tremoloing riffs, the transitioning from like the melodic parts into the heavy parts again. Even the way they write like rising sort of bridges reminds me so much of like From Autumn to Ashes. And honestly, oh shit, sorry, where am I? I'm trying to transition into the joke I made and I didn't do it at a good time. Yeah, so yeah, this is just like super classic Screamo vibes and stuff like that. And I'm also just, I was thinking about, so they brought me back to my MySpace days, and I was just thinking about living through like the era of having a top 8 on MySpace. And I just, I'm trying to picture like what a nightmare it would be if that had become like a permanent fixture in social media.
Right.
Like having your displayed, remember when they expanded it to like your top 40, because like people would be messaging you and being like, bro, what the fuck, I thought we were friends, I'm not even in your top 32.
Yeah. Yeah, if only people understood how really that is. And nowadays it's just people care, it's different. It's you know, if they're sharing passwords with each other and sharing account passwords, like that's what affection is nowadays amongst
it ain't the top 8.
Yeah, it ain't the top 8, that's for sure.
Yeah, so R.I.P. the top 8, R.I.P. MySpace, and shout out Carissa. They also have an EP that came out earlier this year. I actually ended up listening to it too. I'm not going to give a full review here, but I did end up listening to that as well because I just kind of let their music play as I was typing out my notes.
Cool.
It's all sick. It's all this throwback from Autumn to Ashes stuff. These guys have, you know, a good chunk of songs for you to sink your teeth into. So
next up, we have North Glengarry Screamo Tucana with their release Rabbit Holes and Sun's Coming Up. I love this. This is, I don't know if we're doing weekly recommendations of like local bands, but this one swept me off my feet. I don't know what I was expecting with a band name like Tucana. Like I really didn't know what I was walking into. Could be an indie band, could be a rap band. I really didn't know. Mm-hmm. But this band reminded me a lot of a band called Lower Than Atlantis, but specifically their release Far Q, which was like this like songful punk record. It had aggression, but they were like in a poetic manner. I also like got flavors of Menzingers with this. Like I loved both of these tracks, and I actually found myself going back to them several times after I'd listened to all the songs that we were reviewing this week. And I really enjoyed this track, and I just gonna keep my eyes on them. Where is North Glengarry?
If you, hey, in the comments, tell us where North Glengarry is. Shout out North Glengarry. I was getting like a little Polar Bear Club, some Hot Water Music, some Dillinger 4. I love phaser pedals. I love when a phaser pedal gets used well, and Sun's Coming Up just keeps going back to that phasey lead throughout the track. I love the bass and drums on the verses of that song as well. Like, that song just has such a great momentum. Their music's, like, catchy. It's, like, aggressive, but still, again, really catchy. And the mix and the production, it's mixed like a smoothie. Like, it's just great. And the bass just punch. I really like... I feel like we grew up in this era where bassists were borderline invisible on albums. And I love hearing, like, bass punch through a mix now. I love that bass is getting, like, it's, like, the love it deserves now. And, like, we have the technology to make people be able to hear bass lines. Because, like, I just love the way the bass punches through in this band. This is just fun-ass punk music.
North Glengarry is near Ottawa.
Okay, well, Phil, we asked the audience, so what do you... So, we have London post-punk, fun punk band, Pro Wrestling, the band. These guys, I've been aware of them for a little while. I thought they had more music out, but yeah, this is just like a little Midwest flavored, you know, sort of sad, Mr. Transity punk songs. I really like it. I really liked... I don't know, just bright, sarcastic. I feel like we're bringing up Misser and Transit and bands like that every episode, but I think that's a good thing. I think Misser had a shocking impact on the music scene. This is becoming a Misser channel.
Right. Yeah, no, it's funny that you got that, because I actually found that this band was just a little bit more on the happier side, and like
Interesting.
Although the lyrics and the vocals kind of came off tragic, like I know this band has a piano player. Actually, this band has an all-star cast. We got Pat from Mall Crimes on guitar, Bob from Jock on bass, Nathan who played drums for Heart Attack Kids on drums, and Craig, who I was just telling you about, who slays the piano. I know their singer. I don't know his name, but he also does a good job too. But the song is it came out in the spring, and we're just playing catch up with it. So I'm glad that we're catching up with it. Loved this tune. We're all out of wine or something. We're wasting all our wine. And I was thinking more about that, whether that's a play on words, on whether they're wasting their actual wines, WHINES, on songs, or that they've completely drained their boxes of wine. Either way, I enjoyed it.
They just fit so well into that. I could see them just being, on the radio next to bands like The Strokes, The Hives, Franz Ferdinand,
cool.
Modest Mouse. I feel like that we lived through this glory period, and I was too young to really appreciate when the radio was just full of indie rock for Shiny Toy Guns and super sick indie music, and I was so into heavy music at the time that I couldn't appreciate it. Now I hear the influence of those bands in so many projects that I like now. Yeah, shout out Pro Wrestling, the band. Also, one of the funnest names in music.
Yeah, that's
amazing. A great name.
It's great. Before we get into the review of this next album, I want to just say reviewing instrumental songs are tough. You don't really realize how much you gravitate towards a song that has lyrics until that harness is completely removed. It's ambitious, it's difficult to pull off, it's uncommon. However, these obstacles weren't in the way for Jaodae and their release Nest of Veins. This was a great record. It's kind of, like I said, it's hard to describe an instrumental record. It's kind of like describing a painting. I'm not going to do justice, but I'm going to try. This was a cool record. There's lots of ways to get lost in this, whether you're just studying to something or turning your brain off or driving or just immersing yourself in this world, which actually happens a couple different times in these some of the releases that we're saying. But this one was cool. My favorite track was the first one, Lobotomies, with that haunting saxophone solo.
Yeah.
I love when saxophone shows up in a punk or metal song.
It felt like something the Chariot would do.
Yes, something the Chariot would do. Rivers of Nile has that, Rivers of Nile, they did the saxophone thing. I know Clowncore does the saxophone thing, and Dead Tired, and Jaodae did it too, and it's all damn good. And definitely check out this record, because I don't think I'm giving it justice. It's hard to explain a record like this.
No, I agree with you. It's really reviewing an instrumental, especially for people like us who are primarily people who do vocals. It can be really hard to pin down what a band sounds like without the anchor of a vocalist. You know what I mean? But I think that, when you do something like this is, we said this with Union Sons on the last episode, I think, or the episode before that. Last time we talked about locals, but this is some love of the game stuff. You greatly increase your chances of success by having a vocalist, obviously. And they went it sounds like a super heavy jam band. It doesn't sound like one person sat by a computer and wrote a bunch of stuff. This really sounds like a big collaborative effort between these guys, and it's proggy, but it's heavier than most prog stuff. It's like instead of Dream Theater, it's Nightmare Theater. Lobotomite's horns was crazy. It's such a smart idea to put that as the first song too, because it sets this idea in your head where you're like, oh, I don't know what to expect anymore. That was really, really strange. And then the next song as well, I believe the next song, Prognostication. Was a super... That song just started having a crazy rhythm section in it, which again, if you imagine trying to play that live, it's you have to be like psychic. Like I don't know how everyone can do those stop and goes at the same time. Bog Body, familiar song name. Really, like one of their heaviest songs. And then I really like Bog Body going into, I think it's called Agafia or whatever. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a really, really, really good transition I remember from, this is also a Between the Buried and Me channel now, but Between the Buried and Me, when they go from my favorite Between the Buried and Me song, Autodidact, into Laser Speed to end the album, and it's just like this like chilled out, like almost like Hawaiian ukulele, like bing, like it's like, but if you're like a musician of any of the instruments being played in this band, you will enjoy this band. This is like Rush but heavy.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So this band is technically from LA, but they got roots in Niagara, and we think they're fucking awesome. So Monk put out their EP. The last song's 12 minutes, so maybe it gets to album time. I don't know. It's called Rock. That's a good name. That's a straight to the point name. We've covered most of the songs already, so I mean, I'm sure you get it at this point, but this is awesome. This is going to become a Monk channel too. You watch and wait. I love this band. I love the late 80s hardcore. It feels like a late 80s hardcore band found a time machine. Yeah. And it has crossed through, And I gotta shout out because I didn't even realize it was one until halfway through listening to it. The Olivia Rodrigo Brutal cover is awesome. That song already has the formula of a mosh song. It just never quite goes, especially the slowdown at the end, you know what I mean? Yeah. Man, that cover is crazy. Every song on here is awesome. It sounds pissed off, but it's fun. It's that angry talking sort of 80s vocal, but it's like mixed in a way where it doesn't sound like bad. Like I really do think that a lot of 80s hardcore, the reason it didn't resonate with me was because the mixes just weren't there and I couldn't fill in the gaps, you know what I mean? I wasn't there to see it live, and hearing a throwback, hardcore band do it this well, man, shout out to them. This is, from what I understand, Dan and Ian Romano, and then the old vocalist of Vicious Cycle. And I guess they're out in LA now, but you're damn right we're going to talk about them, because they're awesome.
Yeah, this band rocks. This is awesome. We've covered their singles before leading up to this release, and I'm excited that we're covering this release. I think the last time I mentioned this band, they said they're very much like a summertime band, paired well with Fiddler, Waves, Diamond Youth. Mm-hmm. Just like summertime on a beach having drinks and with not a care in the world. You also get peppers of Viagra Boys and Idols as well. This was awesome. This was another record I found myself going back to. This was you described it really well. This is an old school punk band with just a modern production. The structures, the old school way. Everything about it.
Staccato guitar.
Yeah. Even the tone, that bright, it's super bright, clean guitar that's
this
distortion.
Driving mid-range. It's not trebly, it's not bassy. It's the mids are turned up all the way. It's so good. It just it's amazing how something so simple can feel so refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Absolutely.
So, as resident rap man, I felt the need to shout out another incredible release from Fuh Nothing, Toronto rapper, Toronto producer. He's got an EP out. It's called The Elephant Show Presents Big Gorilla Dance. This is so fun. His first release that we talked about was artsy, glitchy. It had some banger tracks on it, but it felt more reserved. It felt more like it was going for a somber feeling. This is spitting. This is creativity. This is fun. This sounds demented. This sounds the name fits it really well. It's circusy, but this artist, I don't know if he wants me to say his first name, but he's just, his production game is so good. He makes his beats and they sound pristine. The samples, the layering of the samples he does, how ambitious it is. He's heavily inspired by JPEG Mafia.
Yeah,
it shows in his music. He just, I can't even describe it. Like, he is just more interesting, invested, and dynamic than, like, literally 90% of modern day rappers out there right now. Like, in terms of, like, the underground, you know, there's a lot of, like, just dumb, goofy trap shit out there, and he's, like, going ambitious, and he is just totally punching, like, above his weight. Like, I'm telling you, he deserves to get huge. He deserves an audience that likes things like Peggy and Run the Jewels and Open Mike Eagle and, like, you know, that, like, just weird, like rappers who experiment with
art
their
rap.
production. Yes, but I'm telling you, he spits catchy shit all over this stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, it's all over the place. He's got like 100 different voices on here, 100 different flows, 100 different inflections, 100 different samples. When he's big, just please remember that I was sitting here being like, listen to Good for Nothing. This will be the artist where I'm like, where I am that person who's like, yo, I was telling everybody to listen to this guy. If you like art rap, if you like catchy rap, even just listen to this. Don't even think about it. Just go listen to this release. Shout out you're the GOAT. I don't know if you want me to say your name, but yeah, check out Good for Nothing and you know, give some support to an incredibly talented independent artist.
Next up, we have Toronto Scram's Boxcutter with the other half of the split release.
Yeah, this threw us for a loop.
And there's a third band on this split too, eh?
Oh, I didn't know that. So on the next episode, so stay tuned so we can finally get to the third band on this. Just to break the fourth wall a little bit, me and Phil both had separate moments where we saw like the artwork for this and the name, and we were like, no, we've definitely reviewed this. And at one point, I thought maybe Boxcutter and Please Don't Crash were like maybe like a band that had just recently changed their name or something. I was so confused, and then it just clicked. I was like, oh, this is like a split, but it's just not like set up on Spotify in a way where that's like immediately obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this broke my brain, but it's good. It's early,
it's great.
You know, gazy sunbather-esque scrams.
Oh yeah, big sunbather vibes by Death Heaven. Very artsy in a good way. Shoegaze black metal. I think they call that bleak metal.
Yeah, that's such a good name.
I think even like during the climax of their first song, Stray, it almost sounded like there was like an air conditioner on, like at full blast. It was like it was this like noise in the background. It was awesome to be, like I mentioned earlier, immersed in this sonic atmosphere where you're just taken to a different realm, and these songs delivered. Yeah, what?
Did you ever see the Hard Times article where it's like guitarist footboard becomes sentient, writes new album? That's what this reminded me of. Like the whole, like all the effects are getting used in this. This is such like a big wall of sound, like cavernous. You know, just like this is like pure artsy scrams. This is not a band that is trying to be accessible by any means, which I really like. I got like Alexis on Fire self-titled vibes from it. And I don't know if you can recall, but I feel like on the song Stray, maybe it was just the tone of the guitar, but I thought I was hearing like a violin lead.
Yeah, that may have been it. Like I don't know what it was, but there was definitely some sort of like chaotic, like noise happening. Yeah,
there was. It sounded like if you at Boxcutter, if you're listening, and we know you are, was that a violin, or do you just have like a really like interesting like guitar tone that makes it sound like that? And like I said, this is definitely like purist scrams, artsy, you know, wall of noise. Art rock. And I like the name She, Her, Hers. That's a really cool song name.
Yeah, that is a cool song name.
Yeah, so shout out to the second part of the split featuring Boxcutter, and stay tuned for the third part of the split featuring
Treehouse of Horror.
Next up, we have The Stoves with their release, self-titled The Stoves. As soon as this came on, I recognized right away that this was Drew Thompson from Single Mothers. Like, I messaged you right away. He's like, does Drew have a second band? I've mentioned previously on this podcast before, Roy is a record that they put out earlier this year, and it's like my album of the year. I can't stop listening to it. These tracks by The Stoves sound more of like a punk version of Single Mothers, which is probably, maybe that's what they're going for nowadays, because Roy is a little bit of a different take that Single Mothers did, and perhaps Stoves is just their version of doing it, like more punk, and I don't know, maybe they're transitioning, maybe they're making that transition. Either way, I loved all these cool songs. I think there's nothing that I'm not gonna love. Like, Drew's very self-aware, he's poetic, he's got these like unapologetic lyrics. They're very tragic, but they're very, like, they're tongue-in-cheek. I love this kind. I love him as a vocalist. So to hear more songs coming out of him, like, I loved his solo project, the Drew Thompson Foundation. So to hear more songs coming from him, just got excited, and I loved it.
Yeah, this sounded like a lot like the Hives to me, in the best way possible. Like, this just really sounds like you're like inside some sort of like punk rock casino, and like it feels like neon. The bass lines are super slinky. Everything. You know what I like about this too, and this is what I like about the Hives, Phil. Everything in this band is catchy. The guitar is catchy. The drums are catchy. The bass is catchy. And I don't mean as like one collective unit. I mean, like, you can hang on to just listening to the guitar and you're like, holy fuck, that guitar riff is so good. Or you can just listen to the vocals. Like, everyone is doing something catchy at the same time in a synchronistic, great way. This reminds me 100% of the album Tyrannosaurus Hives. This is like bright and bratty punk. Speaking of the Hives, their album, The Death of Randy Fitzgerald, or whatever the fuck, just came out. It's actually pretty good. Enjoyed that as well. But this is about the Stoves, and to me, the Stoves put out the better Hives record this year. I'm saying it. I'm saying it.
Love that. Love that.
And speaking of Single Mothers, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I've been fed some intel, Phil, but Telepathic Love, they put out a track called Oh Boy. This was, the guitar has no business going as hard as it does in this release. It reminds me of like the way Dirty Nil does it too, you know what I mean? Where like, you listen to a song like Nicer Guy, but like they're playing like a riff that could kind of be in a Comeback Kid song if you just added a few chugs. It's like borderline moshy, like it's like gazy psych surf almost, and like it has that like buried sort of like gazy vocal. But then like I'd say like 2/3 of the way through the song, they go into a full like fuck someone up riff. Like, it's so sick.
Yeah, this was super cool. This is like fuzz rock at its finest. Big Turnstile vibes, which I absolutely love.
Blow on.
Yeah, like just like giving that influence out there. Very catchy pop punk. Menacing guitar tone, like that thick, like just a wall of noise.
It's such an interesting mix to hear such a menacing guitar over top of something that sounds like an ethereal sort of gaze band. Like, God, it was so good.
I would love to see this band live. I immediately went to go check out more songs by them after I heard the song. And shout outs to the very end of the song, where it kind of sounded like I was in a video game elevator.
Yeah, that was a nice little like synth lead or whatever they were doing. And yeah, I mean, for me, like, what really sold me on this song, I was like enjoying it, and then it just got to that mosh riff, and I was like, what are you doing here, mosh riff? This is a weird place for you. It reminded me of when Blink-182's arguably last good record, Neighbors, came out, and they started to just like sprinkle in a little bit of two-stepping and a little bit of breakdown riffs as well. Like Like Up All Night's one of my favorite Blink-182
Really?
songs because it has two-step parts. Like Blink-182 two-step parts? Hell yeah.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so it reminded me of that, but this is infinitely better. Like I will be keeping a close eye on this.
London punk nostalgic core Polluted put out a record called Insidious. This was awesome. This was like very accessible screamo punk with new metal flavors, thrash band at times. This was like sonically different track by track. However,
they covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, there was something about the riffs that felt very inviting. I could easily see this being played on today's modern rock stations. They had grunge flavors, heavy edges. It reminded me of that Christian metalcore band Blindside, where like they very much fit, like they were different song by song. But halfway through Insidious, we get more of like an emo pop punk side of them, where like bands like Basement. Yeah, Basement and Citizen. You're saying Meatloaf. I see this like Daylight kind of thing, like where it was just like a different band from where we started off. Like we picked it back up right when we got into it. Like you know, I think it was for only one song, but like, yeah, this was an interesting release. And then I'm always I'm a fan of the audio clips that happen in like the movie quotes and clips, and this band used that to their advantage as much as they could. So like I'm always sold when someone can do that well.
Yeah, they really pull, like, they're pulling from really easy to define influences. Like, I felt like, oh, here's, like, the Cancer Bat song. Here's, like, you know, like, here's, like, an Undermined song. Here's the Deftones song. But, but I find that they pull from their influences without feeling like they're, like, actually, like, imitating it. It just feels like an influence. Like, this was, like, a really hard album to predict on a track-by-track basis. Like, Meatloaf is like this, like, power pop song almost. Like, it's... oh my god, yeah, I don't even know how to, like... It sounds like 40 different bands that I liked growing up, like, in a really good way. Like, I like this type of music, too, because, like, I feel like you could put this band with Despised Icon, or you could put this band with Death Cab for Cutie, and like the show would still work. Like this is like, this band is like a one band multi-bill. Like it's like I'm getting a little bit of punk, I'm getting a little bit of screamo, ooh, I'm getting a little metal, I guess. Ooh, right. A little bit of like gazy Deftones core. Like yeah, they just covered so much ground in such a like genuinely interesting and compelling way. This was probably maybe I'll start doing this more on the show. No, I don't want to make it competitive. But this was an album, or this EP I was going back to a lot. I was trying to make sure to listen to these songs for like the last few days, and if I caught myself listening to something else, I'd be like, hey, maybe I should probably, you know, listen to those albums a few more times to make sure like I really have them impacted. And I felt like this was always the first one I would want to put on again. Like this was so fun. It's just punk with like that hardcore velocity to it. So Southern Ontario birdcore Avem released an EP called Nerdin' About Burden. You know, Phil, if you asked me a few months ago if they still made like good fun pop punk, I would have started doing what I did months ago, where I'd bring up MGK and how I hate how rappers have become like computer drag and drop pop punk artists, and like the guitars are made on synths, and I'd go into my old man yelling at cloud rant so hard. And over the last couple months, we have been so lucky to be inundated with so much fun and refreshing pop punk. And I am so glad to say that Avem sits so well into that category with the rest of them. This is like songs about being a bird, songs about caring about birds, and some very wholesome stuff. But like the riffing is that like when NoFX would write like a fast ass skate punk song, you know what I mean? Or like Teenage Bottle Rocket. I'm getting Nerf Herder on this, and I'm going to let you speak, but I also want to bring up that I like how all of the gang vocal parts felt like doo-wop-y in a way.
Yeah.
Like the way they layered their vocals. Like it's not doo-wop, but it's like doo-wop inspired. This was so unexpected and sick.
I think you were going to mention this earlier, but like I just looked up Avem is the Latin like translation to English for bird.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Every single song name too is something to do with birds. And as far as I understand, their original album before this, very much the exact same thing. Like it's just all bird content. So
yeah, classic skate punk rock. Like nerding about Burden with the hilarious nerd character on the front, sitting in his room studying birds. Very great, like songs are tongue in cheek. Like I could see Hellbent easily playing with this band. Like we're just having a fun time. Bower of Love, like come on, like this was ridiculous. This reminded me of Mask Intruder. If you're a fan of that, you're gonna like this. But yeah, it had that 90s skate punk edge, and I'm just so glad that we're getting these kind of bands. These pop punk bands are coming back up, and it's not totally just rappers these days. There's hope, Tyler.
I know. I'm holding out hope. I think Trippy Red just put out another one. Aww.
Sudbury, Ontario street style hardcore Rockpyle with their EP Fresh Out of the Bin. This was great. I loved this. Right away when it first started, I was like, oh, we're getting a hip-hop record. Like, this is cool. And I was going to start commenting about how we don't get this kind of, we're not covering enough of it. And then quickly does it just like a light switch. Does this just turn into like this like street style, like beat down? I loved it. They captured beatdown with not just chugs. There was lots of widdly woos and diddly doo doo doos, and I would love to see them live. Although it would be full of crowd killing and head bobbing and straight up just vibing. This is music to get robbed to. That's what I got.
Yeah, it reminded me of early Betrayal. Shout out Shakewell. Thick as Blood, Bury Your Dead, Hatebreed, Super Moshy, that like pissed off style of street hardcore vocals where he just sounds like a terrifying dude. He's not trying to distort his voice too much. It's just like impact sort of yelling. This is, and I love like how they'll just like blast a fucking 200 note guitar solo in 12 seconds and just move on. Like, yeah, this is awesome. This is just an absolute freight train of mosh riffs. Like, shout out Rockpyle. Fresh out the bin.
Yeah, I gotta catch this band live.
All right, Phil. So there's a little lesson in life that we all need to remember, and that's that there's 3 guarantees in life. Okay, Phil? There's death, there's taxes, and there's in the act of violence putting out music. They have been consistently putting out music. Ken and the boys. Ken, cool, who's like this is his baby. It's always seemed to me. He's been in every position of this band as far as I understand, because I remember him being the vocalist. I definitely remember him being the guitarist, and I think he's playing drums now specifically. Yeah. So he's like an incredibly talented multi-instrumentalist, and this album was really interesting. It dives into like deathcore, but it has like a nu metal sort of bounce riff, like consistency through the whole thing. But then the vocals are mixed really like black metal-y and like gazy and like almost like transparent and ethereal. Right. It's a really interesting sort of sonic choice. I like it. It's crushing, and it's unique. Like they've shown a lot of growth since, I remember like checking them out in like 2010 or something. Yeah, they've been a band for quite some time. Like when I played in Continent for like 3 or 4 months, we played with this band quite often, and like that was like a good 10 years ago. This is like this. I love this release. That his inhuman vocals like that, but like way more of a chunkier deathcore. Like wasn't just like the Lorna Shore kind of like inhuman kind of stuff. There was more like head bobbing, Despised Icon influence. The vocals sounded like what I imagine Cthulhu would be sounding like at the end of the world, and just like the apocalypse happening. Kind of similar to, I don't know if you remember the band Annotations of an Autopsy. They had some terrible lyrics, but like the way that the way that they brought that together, they were just like this
weird. They weren't even pig squeals. They were just like these weird noises that he was making. And this band just recently, or is currently on like an East Coast tour. So which you love to see. You love to see when the bands are going out there and doing their thing. So yeah, shout outs to In the Act and Violence. This was a great release. Frailty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, In the Act of Violence, Frailty. In case I didn't say that. Wait, my mind don't think so good. I forget things.
Next up, we have 1,000 Times Goodnight with their single Rainy Days, Drunk Nights, Big Smiles, Photographs. They're from St. Catharines. It's like a Midwest alt-rock band. I've heard lots about this band from my pal Dalton, who plays in I Buried Your Flowers. I think he played in this band, or maybe just told me about this band quite some time ago. And he also implied that he never thought that this band would come to light. Now, whether or not they've got a different... I don't know what the situation is with this band, but the fact that we're getting tunes from them, this is exciting. I love to hear it. Zoe is a great vocalist. She offers unapologetic lyrics with catchy tongue-in-cheek vocals. They're similar to Brianna from Tiger's Jaw. It's emo. I just can't wait to see more from this band, because this was a single that I also kept going back to, because I just thought it was like it captured kind of like what being in your 20s is like, right? Even just the song title, sometimes there's rainy days, which are bummer days, sometimes there's drunken nights, and sometimes there's big smiles, and everybody's always taking photographs on their phone with Instagram. So like I don't know, it captured what I imagined but being in your 20s or growing up in your 20s. I don't think any of them they're probably in their late 20s nowadays, but like, yeah, I think it captured it really well. What did you think of this?
I thought it was super cool. I like Wheatleys. I love like Midwestern like guitar leads. I can't play them. I have it's like someone smashed my hands with hammers. But yeah, I love like the splashy cymbals. I love the guitar work. I love the like sarcastic and sort of like bratty lyrics. This is fun, chilled out like campfire emo rock. You know what I mean? It's just a good time. Alright, guys, so, I have a confession. I fucking love Chilldozer. They put out, a EP this year. So, a little peek behind the curtain again. When we reviewed the last Chilldozer EP, I didn't realize that was a release from 2020. Oh. Yeah, it was like a few years ago, and I ended up really, really liking it. And yeah, they have a new EP out now. I think it's 4 tracks on here. It's called Light Pollution. And this is, Wall of Sound gaze meeting heartbreak, like lo-fi rock. It's catchy, it's moody, it's just absolutely soaked in saturation, soaked in reverb. And all I can do is repeat myself from last time. This band's name... Totally. I've never had a band's name encompass what they sound like so well. Like, this is like dying fetus levels of being like, oh, okay, I immediately understand what I'm getting. Like, soaked, saturated, and sad. This is just... I love this. It pulls from genres I would never typically listen to on my own, but I just love the songwriting on here. I love the moody melodrama. I fucking love Chilldozer. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, ex-Helmet member Jolin plays in this band, and I've always been a big fan of his guitar style, and his music taste in general. Like he's a very interesting guy. I always enjoyed being in the van with him. I always took a page out of his book and just wandered. We would show up in the city and just wander. Like, there's no, don't look up at anything. Like, and he would always end up going into thrift stores and finding things to like flip, and he'd, pick up like an old Fonz doll and be like, this is probably worth money. And like, he has a whole eBay store. But yeah, he's showed me several new bands when we've been in that van ride, and you could tell that these songs just offer that like knowledge that he has and what he's bringing to the table. Yeah, emo flavored grunge punk with thick guitar tones, and that's I don't know how to describe it, but they're like, the vocals are like swaying, almost as if there's like a ghost singing.
Alright, guys, so last on the dock today, we have Pew Pew Pew, or PQ, oh my god, it's hurting my brain to try to say that. PQ times 3 is how I've seen it written on the internet. This is a Toronto punk band. They put out a single called The Dumbest Thing I've Ever Done. The dumbest thing they've ever done, I guess, is, selling a PS4 to someone and then wishing that the person would sell it back to them because they want to get back into video games. And so you're going to try to convince them that they should get a PS5 and use the money that you're going to give back to them to help them get a PS5, and then you'll get your PS4 back. This is like just that super like tongue-in-cheek, like relatable, like folk punky. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought this was like fun and like self-aware. Yeah, you got to listen to the song to really contextualize it. What did you think?
We've all been in a pinch where we're just drowning in our bills, and sometimes we make rash, impulsive decisions and get rid of items that we don't think we need until we do. This is the epitome of this song. Homie was hard up, needed some cash, and next thing you know, he's selling his PS4 on Craigslist to a 38-year-old guy named Dan who has a bald spot and loves baby metal. You check to make sure he was legit on his Craigslist buy-sell history. He sold 3 things in the past, and he's bought 2 things. He sold a copy of Punchline, bought a broken airsoft rifle for parts, and a grocery bag full of D-cell batteries. He's also sold a used air fryer and an Alvin the Chipmunk's Pez dispenser, which according to the seller was a good buy. You find yourself in a hallway with Dan in Chinatown in a rundown mall, and you're not sure if the smell is coming from him or the food stand that's meters away. He pays you, you sell your PS4, you get home, the day is accomplished. You feel like you living on your own isn't so bad. You realize you have to cancel your Netflix subscription because you don't have anything to watch it on anymore, but things are getting back together until next month. Yeah, this song was also amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a cool song.
It's time for you to have your say on Speaker's Corner.
Those people from Boston, it was a couple and their children, and they came up here about a week ago, and they were talking about how America wants to incorporate Canada, make it the 51st state. And, the tone of the whole thing was like they sounded like they were doing us a big favor. Totally disagree. And I think there's a lot of Canadians with me that we don't need Americans here. We don't want your healthcare system. We have a lot of good things here. And the last thing we need is to throw it all away for, some green money with, pictures of Abraham Lincoln. Get a clue, okay? Boston people or any Americans thinking of taking over Canada, we will resist you.
All right, guys. So, I just want to thank you guys again for, checking out the video with us, and hit that
Oh, sick.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, that's Countdown, Much Countdown. Oh, I wonder what's going on. Oh, Monica, That Boy Is Mine. That was a brand new. Yeah, that's...
What is it? Phil, what's happening?
Oh, it's just the 1998 Much Countdown. Oh, yeah.
What do you mean it's just the 1998 Much Countdown?
Oh yeah, it just happens. It just comes up. You know how? Haven't you watched it? It just comes up.
What do you mean it just happens?
It just happens.
What does that mean? All right, guys. So that was a bit. We are getting into the main topic of the show. We're in between guests on this episode, so we decided we'd talk about big nostalgia bait for us, MuchMusic. We're going to get into some shows, some VJs. I don't know how we're going to structure this, but we'll just dive right in. Sorry, I'm pulling up my doc and just speaking instead of thinking.
Yeah, no, there's something special about MuchMusic as a channel. There was this, it had so much character to it. Now it's just a channel for Cash Cab that's constantly playing. That's all that plays.
Shadow Cash Cab.
Yeah, Shadow Cash Cab. But like before, it had so much character, and the VJs and like a lot of our, I don't know if I have any American listeners or watchers, but if this is anytime that they talk about MTV, it makes me feel like I didn't grow up in the 90s era of MTV. Like, I don't understand. I grew up in the era of MuchMusic. It was on my cable television. It was super accessible, and just the stuff that was constantly playing. Now, it's incredible to think that this channel was just based around videos, like just music videos. But the channel had a way of actually taking you through all sorts of different ways of presenting these videos too. It's like HGTV. Every show is just about, look at how this house used to be ugly and now it looks great. It doesn't matter how we get there, whether it's Love It or List It or something else. It's just, that's every show in HD. And that's essentially what MuchMusic was like, here's a way for us to present a music video to you, whether we're shitting on it, whether we're fucking gassing it up, or whether we're doing, that was all that channel had to do. It was just shoving music videos down your throat, and because of it, I've to this day, I've just these iconic music videos burned into my brain. And like when you hear a single once in a while, you go, I definitely remember seeing that music video, and it's all because of MuchMusic. Now, we both got to actually go to a taping of Much on Demand, which was like MuchMusic's parallel to Total Request Live.
What's going to happen, really?
It's so true. What's Up John is going to be on the show, and it's behind the scenes Monday. We'll see you then.
Lick me.
I'm really not as familiar with MTV as I thought I was.
Yeah, TRL. It was the same thing. They called it like they wanted you to like call in and demand what music videos they were going to play, but like you and I were both there. They queued everything up like beforehand. It was not like a demand.
They basically made you lie. You have to be like, oh yeah, no, I really want to see the new Jason Derulo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we should definitely get into our experience going to a live taping.
Yeah. So, what did you said this was like a school trip?
Yeah. So I think it was like, I forget the exact name of like the high school class you would have been in, but it's where you learn to like edit videos, do a little bit of music production. I think it's called like communications, or that's
TV arts.
Something like that. And I distinctly remember, and you let me know if I'm wrong, but I went with Kyle Fisher. Like, we were in the same class. So me and Kyle went to MuchMusic together, and we had the worst luck ever, because the day that we went, it was like some no-name, like Nepo baby, like R&B artist. No one knew who he was, straight up. And then, like, I remember specifically at the end, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I remember specifically at the end, they were like, and our whole audience gets free tickets to his show. It's like, no, we're getting on a bus, like, right after, and we're leaving. But the next day on Much on Demand, they had Protest the Hero in the building. And I'm 15 or 16, and I'm like, and I remember distinctly, they were going around the room, and they were asking people, like, so what song would you want to hear? What song would you want to hear? And I said, I want to hear Heretics and Killers by Protest the Hero, because I knew they had just put a video out. Yep. And they ignored me so that they could play it while Protest the Hero was there tomorrow. And I remember being very bitter and just thinking, like, why couldn't we have just booked this one day later? So I could have been interested. I remember that applause button works overtime. Yeah, you got to applaud everything that happens there, like
anything.
And they're like shifting people around in between commercials, and I mean, I guess sorry to spoil it, but no one gets to demand anything there. That is not how that works. They play what they're going to play, and they just basically find someone to be like, hey, so what did you want to listen to? And they're like, I want to hear the Arctic Monkeys. And it's like, right. Can you say Nelly?
Yeah,
like, that's what it was like, basically. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It was an interesting experience. It was when Leah Miller and I think Matt Babel or something. Did he get canceled?
I don't know.
I feel like, oh my god, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I feel like I heard something about him actually. But yeah, Leah Miller. It was an interesting experience. It was also like my first time in Toronto as a kid, and it just felt like totally overwhelming to be there. Like in general, I remember very distinctly like going to like some market and getting lunch, and that was like the highlight of like being there. So shout out to whatever Toronto market I was at where I got that like delicious sandwich. That's what I remember about MuchMusic.
It's funny you say that. I also went with like a TV arts class, and what was funny is what was really cool about that trip is the in the morning we got to go to Deluxe Studios, and they were actually editing Bangkok Dangerous featuring Nick Cage that didn't come out until like another year, and they were actually showing us like how a movie gets edited, and it was like an exclusive tour. It was really cool. And then like the second half of that, so get this, I remember this. You remember going to like a market being the highlight. I remember my school being like, okay, we did the Deluxe Studio, and then they were like, here's 3 hours of free time in a fucking Toronto, dude. Like this is like the major city. Why are you letting teenagers roam by themselves? And of course we were fine, but a bunch of us just got high in a park, obviously. Like, what else do you expect? Where you just let us loose? And so we obviously all went stoned onto Much On Demand. And I vividly remember my one buddy who was on the show, and they placed him somewhere like he was obvious, like just right above the VJ. I wish I could get this footage because it was funny. And he just kept making like this, like he kept doing this on purpose, just like and I like, so when you obviously know that when you're there, you're pretty much told that you're like the focal point is Matt and Leia, and you like don't pay attention to anything else. So after the commercial break, the like producers came over and like, get the kid out, like he's not on the show anymore. They put him aside. And like all of us were like, what the hell just happened? Like, and it was like one of the kids that's like not a bad kid, he just likes to stir the pot. So like it wasn't even, you kind of go like, he's not even a bad, like that's weird. And then I remember when we ended up looking back and watching the tape,
it's like so obvious.
He's like he's doing all these crazy faces, and it's so funny. Applause button over time. I think they set up interviews that they did like that were pre-taped. They're like, all right, we're gonna go to like Chris Daughtry, and they're like, hey Chris Daughtry, and it's like, we didn't see Chris Daughtry at all, but like the way that they like set it up is like as if we were in the, like he was just right outside, like you know. MuchMusic had a bunch of interesting show. I mean, Much on the Van was kind of a like gong show, but they did have all sorts of different shows on the channel that were both exciting, interesting. Some of them were just straight up confusing, like Electric. You remember Electric Circus?
Hit it, Julissa! Here's the Formalize! Alice DJ! It's a brand new single!
The lonely one.
On Electric Circus!
Man, Electric Circus was like borderline scary to me as a kid. I remember I loved MuchMusic, and when I would flip to Electric Circus, like I remember just like being a kid and watching Electric Circus and being like so confused at what I'm seeing. Like there's just people just like.
Well, and they had like a 3-hour time slot, and like
it was massive.
It came on at 10. So like if you had the chance as a kid, the off chance for you that you were getting to stay up, you're channel surfing, and the first channel you go to MuchMusic is like this 3-hour block of just people ecstasy out of their
I was gonna
minds.
say, a room full of people rolling.
Just like, and like, it's such a weird concept, even to this day for a show. Like, sure, let's throw a rave at MuchMusic and have a big party. Like, that makes sense. That's the Friday night time slot. But why are we filming it for fucking 3 hours?
Also, you totally could have just ran the same few you taped before. They're totally, completely impossible to discern from each other. Like,
that's funny. The only people who were watching Electric Circus are the people who were at the Electric Circus taping, who were just trying to watch for like that. There I am.
yeah,
There I
like,
am.
oh god, I hope I don't look too gacked up. And they're like, like, oh fuck, I look really gacked up.
Yeah, dude.
So funny. It was just, I just remember, like, I'd be like excited to watch MuchMusic, and then I'd tune in, and it'd be Electric Circus, and I'd be like, oh fuck, please God, no, not Electric Circus.
Another one of those videos that was like that was pop-up video.
Oh my
Like,
god.
the funniest part about pop-up video is you really didn't care about the pop-ups.
Are you kidding? I loved it.
Oh, I didn't care to read any of it. I was just like, get off the screen. I want to care. But like, my favorite part about tuning into MuchMusic, so you sit down, you get the remote, your siblings aren't around, you actually get the TV for the day, you get to choose what's on TV, you immediately tune to 29 to just see what's on MuchMusic. You see an old school music video, and it's Take On Me by Aha, and you go, hey, my dad listens to this song, this isn't a bad song, and you're like jamming to it, and then all of a sudden and you're like, oh fuck, pop-up video, I don't know if I enjoy this show. Like, it actually was kind of a buzzkill for me, because like, you're trying to watch a music video, and it was just these facts.
Do you remember the jingle?
Pop-up video.
No. Pop-up video.
Pop-up video.
Oh
yeah,
my god, it was so good. I loved pop-up video, because like I didn't like old school music videos that much, so like pop-up video was like a way where I'm sitting there watching like a The Who video, and it's like, oh, like Tommy Moon or whatever his name was doesn't like pickles on his submarine sandwich, and I'm like, that's fucking crazy. Like, I liked it. I don't know what else I think it was, and this is some city TV stuff, I guess, so this kind of is indirectly related. I really liked Blind Date, and they use like the same pop-up noise, and I think my undeveloped child brain was like, I like that noise.
Yeah, or sometimes like the pop-ups would just be straight up roasting the music video. Like this, they'd be like this actor right here is dead right now, and it's like, obviously it's like a cartoon or something. Like you're watching, like it was so funny the way that they would like, pop-up video was funny, but I didn't enjoy, like I didn't respect it enough as a kid, because I just wanted to watch music videos. Do you know what I mean? Like, I as an adult, I would probably enjoy pop-up video.
Pop-up video was like some Channel 78 stuff. That was much more music.
MuchMusic, yeah. And you mentioned City TV, which was like, that is the building. Like, it still exists today. But, like, do you remember, it was right outside. It was just on the corner. Do you remember there was like that booth. There was like that video booth.
Speaker's Corner?
Speaker's Corner. You would go into Speaker's Corner and
City TV. That's like proto. That's basically Twitter before Twitter. Just like, we have this booth, and like just unhinged people are gonna come up and just give their hot take. I really want to watch some old Speaker's Corner, because I remember like being totally captivated by it as a kid, and I don't feel like people are like, the government is trying to create an economy that can turn us all into an anomaly, and I'm like, oh my god, this man's spitting right now. That's true. Realize. like that sort of shit, you know what I mean? It was like early tweeting, but it was like people, like unhinged lunatics on the streets of Toronto.
dude, like, and what a concept. They're literally just like, let's put a public, it was almost like a phone booth.
Remember when you could trust people?
Yeah, and they're like, let's make a phone booth where you, like, I think you had to pay like $5. I think there was some sort of thing that you, like, or maybe there wasn't. I can't quite remember.
They just have some poor editor just sifting through hours and hours of footage of rambling.
I think it capped you off. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it capped you off at like 2 minutes. It was like, get out of the booth. Like, it didn't want you talking for too long, but like,
it has like needles coming out to get you out.
It's like, yeah, the suicide booth from Futurama.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was thinking. It turns into a suicide booth after 2 minutes. Warning, 10 seconds left.
Yeah, what an interesting concept. Let's literally leave a camera out in the street and, like, let's hear what people are gonna say. And yeah, some of the most unhinged things came out of that. We had all sorts of cool shows that that came out of the Much Music, and like Much Countdown. This was just like the top 20s.
Yeah. I remember a moment that made me feel old, or just like a moment of sadness for me was when I realized that Much Music, the Countdown, they like stopped playing the full songs, and they would just play like 20 seconds of the song.
Yeah.
It was like, that sucks.
That was weird.
Yeah, I wonder if that was like you could play, like, I don't know. I have no idea how the legality. I know that it sucks. Like, I know that like music legality is I just nightmare of a thing, but
yeah, I don't know if it was much of a thing during then. I think probably the idea behind that was because they had a half-hour block that they needed to fit 20 songs, and some of them they would be like,
I remember they'd skip some every now and then on the old format, but I remember
that's true. They would just say like, number 12 is this, and you wouldn't get to watch the video. It was like number 13, and then they would be like, here's
the top
a back
10 would always get played or whatever. And then like something that, like, if it was, it would always say, like, if it was new into the rotation, it would say, like, fresh or something like that. So, like, they would make sure everything in the countdown got played, but, like, they wouldn't, like, play it. Like, if it moved from, like, 29 to 28, they'd skip it because you heard it at 29. I'm assuming that was the logic. I was not in charge of editing the show, so the countdown was sick.
And what was weird about that show was, like, sometimes the number one song would stay the number one song.
Well, and it's because they were a Canadian music company, they would have to, like, they'd have to sort of, like, rig the numbers, right? Because they'd be like, oh, and number 2 is Billy Talent, you know, because they have to include Canadian artists. Like, there has to, a certain amount of the music you play has to be Canadian, with Canadian broadcasting. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. Again,
no, you're right.
I wasn't the lawyer in charge of Much Music either, but yeah, the countdown was. I have fond memories of the countdown, and, like, I mean, yeah, a lot of early 2000s and early 90s R&B and pop music is just so deeply embedded in me in, like, a subconscious way. So yeah, it's pure, like, nostalgia to even just, like, think about the Much Music countdown. I think that was, like, the thing I put on when I got home from school, like, every day, basically.
Do you remember their award show, the Much Music Video Awards?
A little bit. I mean, so, obviously, they had one.
Yeah, they, like, shut down, like, the Queen Street. I think that was where that was on. They would shut it down, and they would have live performances, and they would, like, make it a big deal. But, like, I always remember wanting to go to them. That's what I always remember. It always happened in June, right when school got out, and I was like, I always wanted to go to the video awards, and, like, I imagine it was probably
they were worse. I'm remembering now, yeah.
It was probably a worse time to be there than the Much on Demand.
It's like being at a graduation, almost.
It's probably like being on Much on Demand, just with more people, so it's just less enjoyable.
More applauding.
Like, more applauding. And, like, yeah, like, you're subjected to live performances, and, like, I don't know. I really loved the video awards, but I never got to go. There was, oh, man, so cool. So
maybe
cool.
Maybe Hellbent will be up this year.
Maybe Hellbent will be, yeah. I don't know if not too many award shows exist these days, or at least publicly. Maybe we'll have to do the Banecdotes Awards or something.
Ooh, stay tuned, folks. We've got some ideas cooking. Speaking of like Much Music shows that I guess were like staples for me. My first experience with like genuinely liking like proper like hardcore punk was, I don't know whether it was the punk show. I think it was Much Loud.
Yeah.
But I remember tuning into Much Loud. I remember, like, typically not liking it that much at the time. No, that's not even true. So I remember I tuned into Much Loud, I think for like the first time I could, because you had to wait up to like some time, or I think one of my friends had like a cable box, so that was the first time I was able to see it or whatever. But I saw the video for New Noise by Refused, and like that was it. Like I was like, someone had tried to show me like heavy Pennywise songs before and stuff like that, and it just, I was so into like grunge at the time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I heard New Noise, and then I heard, like, The Great Dividers by Unearth right after that. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, that's how I heard of As I Lay Dying. Like, like, not shout out to them anymore. But, I mean, that first record, I'm sorry, that Frail Words Collapse was, like, a big entry point for a lot of us. So, the punk show and Much Loud were, like, pivotal in me, like, actually getting into, like, aggressive underground music. Before that, I was, like, very much into, like, grunge and, like, you know, whatever, and, like pop punk, Sum 41, shit like that. But, like, hearing Refused straight up changed everything for me.
Yeah, both the punk show and Much Loud. I vividly remember seeing Morbid Angels, like, Where the Slime Live, from, like, on that, and being like, what is going on? Like, this is the heaviest music I've ever heard. And, like, yeah, but you know what? They were
Protest the Hero on the punk show with These Colors Don't Run. That you guys keep trying to hide that EP, and I will not forget. Stars Over Bethlehem's a great song. No, that's on the other album. Fuck.
That's on Keziah.
No. Maybe I forgot. You can't hide that EP from me. I know about it, boys. It's really good.
You know what was funny, because you just mentioned the punk show and the Loud, Much Loud. Do you remember Rapcity, like, where it was just rap? Like, it was just like...
I was too young to, like, really appreciate it. You know what I mean? I'd love to have something like that now. Like, I'd love to just have a channel to show me, like, good 90s hip hop. Like,
oh, it was so funny, because it's funny. I felt the same way. Like, when it was on, I was like, I guess I'm just not watching much music right now.
Yeah,
like,
I guess this isn't for me.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure there's probably several people who watch, who watched MuchMusic who had a connection with Rapcity, and probably have stories to this day of artists that they found because of Rapcity. But yeah, they had such weird shows on that show. Like the channel, they were always so creative. Like the VJ search, like that was like, so the VJs were just the hosts of the show. They just called them VJs because they were video jockeys instead of disc jockeys. So and the VJ search was just like, I guess once in a while one of the VJs would, like, leave, and instead of just hiring a new one, they would go through this painful process and turn it into a show, which I can only imagine cost them money. Can you imagine every time that they lost an employee, they had to, like, make an episode of this show? But, like, the VJ search it is what it sounds like. Like, they literally, like, picked out, submit your buddies and submit yourselves and, like, see if you can have what it takes to be the best VJ. And it was just like this. And, like, I don't know if you ever watched an episode, but they would be like, all right, they would be like, all right, act like you just screwed up a video. Like, you just introduced a video wrong. And what would you say if you have to come back at it? And, like, they would do these fake takes, and they would, like, put them in weird scenario, but it was all filmed for the show. It was just this, it was strange. It was
so you're clearly familiar with the VJ search then. So you remember the VJ search had a fundamental flaw, and the fundamental flaw was that the audience had way too much control.
That's right.
This is definitely a product of the early 2000s or the late 90s or whenever this happened, but I think Devin Sultanik, when he won, I think he was a good choice, but he won because girls found him to be the hottest one. And then Tim Deegan won because literally... he was, during his audition, there were women screaming at him, skin to win, and he took off his shirt and he became a VJ. That's literally what happened. It was like the whole competition. He got kicked out by the judges or whatever, and then they did the fans voted him back in, and he won because, even again, he was just the hottest one. to the general audience, basically. So the show had such a flaw because all people wanted was the hottest person. They didn't give a shit about their credentials. And bless his heart, Tim Deegan is probably like an awesome dude, and I hope he's successful in media now. I tried looking it up and I didn't really see anything. It doesn't look like he does anything in media anymore. But like with Peace and Love,
Victoria, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. So, I want to know, if you had the chance to be immortal like the vampires, would you do it? Would you sacrifice your morality? Not morality, but the fact that you're mortal to be immortal?
He was kind of like a dog shit host. He was just timid, and he'd ask like the most like irrelevant questions to artists. It felt like you have like a team of people like preparing these questions for you and stuff, right? Like it's just like the VJ search to me was just like I wanted to like it so bad, and then as soon as I understood what was going on, I was like, oh no, like this like. But I remember being young, and I remember being invested in it. I remember wanting Devin to win. So I think that was like the first season. Did they do 3 or 2?
I can't remember, but
I remember when Tim won. I was like, "This is like bad. This can't happen. Like, this is such a bad idea." Like, they would openly talk about it on the show. They're like, "Yeah, Tim, he's just really shy, and he's like, scared to like talk to like people and stuff."
Right.
And he just won anyways. At least that's what I remember. So,
you brought it up earlier on like one of the past episodes, but do you remember Much in Your Space? Like it was like Pimp Your Ride, but like with rooms.
Let's do this.
Ryan! Much is in your space! I must confess. Hit me, baby, one more. Oh! Oh my God, time! Hey! Yes, time! Much in your space.
Much in your space.
Much in your space.
What's it called?
Much in your space.
Some in your space.
Much in your space.
Much in Your Space is the most demented, abysmal show that Much ever put out. It's not their most evil show. We'll talk about that next. But it's their Much in Your Space. So you remember you guys remember Pimp My Ride, right? What if we did that to your bedroom? So they show up at your house and they're like, "Hey," so this is the episode I remember. They're like, "Hey, we heard you love Linkin Park. So we have a surprise for you. You're going to hang out with Tim Deegan." It's like, "Oh,
okay.
Like I'm not going to hang out with Linkin Park?" No, that'd be insane. That would cost us a lot of money. So you love Linkin Park, so you guys are going to like go get lunch. And you're like, "Okay." And while they're out, they would go into their room and they would decorate their room based on the band they like. But apparently the person they consulted on this has the most they know about the band is like the band name. And I figured this out today because they went up to someone and they're like, "So what would you do for a Linkin Park room?" And he's like, "Lincoln Park." like a parked Lincoln car. So long story short, they basically put just like 80 hubcaps on the kid's wall, and they're like Linkin Park, and he's like looking around his room, and it's like it was they did like an Our Lady Peace one, and it was just like peace signs. Like I'm telling you, it was like they would consult someone with the most surface level knowledge of the band. I don't know how you hear Linkin Park and you're like, "Oh, hubcaps. This kid's gonna want hub." So, like, you come back and your room is just fucked. It's fucked. There's hubcaps everywhere.
It's like, this guy's a big fan of Puddle of Mud. There's just a puddle of mud in his room.
Yeah, like, it's so... This guy's a big fan of Papa Roach. You're like, "Don't do it! Please don't!" Oh, my God! This guy's a fan of 12 inches of blood. What was that name? 2 inches of blood? 3 inches of blood.
3 inches of blood.
Man, shout out 3 inches of blood. But...
Did you ever see it? So there was a show called Homewrecker with Ryan Dunn, and it was exactly like Much in Your Space, but it was
funny.
It was a prank show. It was a prank show. And
right.
A one buddy would get his other buddy, and they would change his room into like a locker room, or like they would put hair all over the room.
That's basically what MuchInYourSpace was, but you had to pretend you liked what they did. I'm not kidding. If I can find the footage and we can get away with showing it, I will put it on screen. But I swear to God, they had a guy. The distinct memory I have is them being like, a Linkin Park fan is just gonna want their wall covered in car hubcaps. Like, it just made no sense at all.
Do you remember the one show? I think it was called. I don't know if I got this right. It was called Wannabe.
Tonight on Becoming.
You're becoming Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, man.
Ever dream of becoming a rock star?
Hey, I'm Anthony Kiedis, and I sit courtside at every Lakers game.
Well, tonight, watch 4 lucky fans shave it off.
We're going slow. The scalp can be a little sensitive or something like this.
Paint it on.
I feel like a god.
And give it away.
All right, who's got my pants? We'll get 3 kisses in, and then we'll call it a day.
It's all next on Becoming.
Way back.
And it was like, so you're a big fan of Britney Spears, so you're going to recreate their music video.
Yes!
And then we're going to set you up in a hotel, and then you're going to get a bunch of memorabilia signed by Britney Spears. You
never get to meet them. It's the funniest part of those shows. It's like, no, we can't spring that. But we got you this tank top.
We got you a skateboard signed by Britney Spears.
We got you this skateboard and this tie. So you're Avril Lavigne.
And then at the very end of the episode, they would obviously show you the music that they recreated, and it never looked the same.
It looked pretty gibble. Oh my God, I can't believe. Total transparent moment. We don't have Wannabe on the dock like that. We're using here. Like, you just remembered, and I definitely remember Wannabe. That show was abysmal. That was on the level of MuchInYourSpace of just like why are you doing this? Like it's, oh my God, that's like proto TikTok.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what? MuchMusic was really ahead of the game. They had Twitter and they had TikTok.
They also had disBAND.
This is disBAND. This season, 13 unsigned bands will compete to see who has what it takes to make it in the cutthroat music industry. Last season, Stereos proved they were ready for the spotlight and walked away with a huge record deal, shooting to #1 on the charts overnight.
Greg Norrie opened up Pandora's box of sexual predators. Thanks, Greg. That was awesome. Thank you for giving us those guys. Thanks for. Is there a non-problematic band that was ever on there other than like Street Pharmacy?
Yeah, I don't know. So people who aren't familiar with disBAND is quite simple. Like, they literally just took a band, they kind of put them through the ringer. I think they threw them through a photo shoot. I think they told them to make a new song. I don't know if they ever made an original song with them, but at the very end of the show, they had to do a showcase in front of some big wigs, whether it's part
Greg
of
Norrie and some Sony executive.
Guru Greg Norrie.
I was really shocked at how off key it was. That can't happen at that performance day. Nice and loud, everything loud. It's got to get tighter, get better. They don't sing confidently enough. This isn't feeling sassy enough. Where are the other dancers? Your dancers not showing up is a huge detriment and it's put us all at risk.
They would be like, I think you need to disband.
No,
or they'd be like...
That was the other weird thing about the show is they treated so black and white. Like it's either you deserve to be signed to a major label or you should never play an instrument again. It's so discouraging. Yeah. And the winners of that show, Stereos. I don't know if I'm gonna leave this in, and maybe I'll make some enemies. I don't know if the dudes in Stereos have been canceled, but they just look like the type of guys that I don't fucking trust for a second. That was the most manufactured bullshit ever. They were like a normal rock band, and they're like, hey, you're gonna do this doo-wop thing, and you're gonna it was people who never listened to doo-wop and never listened to rap making rap doo-wop music. It was the worst cultural appropriation imaginable. It was offensive. And if you think that's bad, these motherfuckers organized an entire season of a show just to market Abandon All Ships. And then they re-recorded Abandon All Ships' songs and made them sound way worse because they got someone who just didn't understand metalcore at all. And they just sounded like tinny and weird, like man. And then Abandon All Ships like became like the Jersey Shore core band. Oh God, disBAND was the nail in the coffin for me watching MuchMusic. Like I was like, I think I'm over this. I think it's time to move on.
Video and Trial was a lot like that too for me. Like it was just this weird
Video
show.
and Trial. It started okay. I think.
What I'll tell you right straight up, what I enjoyed about that show were the comedians that came out of that show. Like I enjoyed. There's a lot of friendly or familiar faces that you still see to this day, and you go, "Oh, I remember them seeing on Video and Trial." However, it was literally just them to take a video, just shit on it as much as they could, and then like literally just be the most like. It was so cruel.
No offense, Josh, but you are the worst dancer in the world. I said it.
disBAND had that kind of like evil, like black and white, like you said, but this like Video and Trial was like very animalistic, and it was. I never enjoyed it because it was just like knocking bands down, whether or not I even liked the band. Some, once in a while it would catch me laughing because they would make a funny joke. It's undeniable, but like. I just didn't like that, like, like...
It's mean-spirited, for sure. Which, I mean, I don't necessarily mind, but it's also weird, because, again, like any other MuchMusic show, you have to showcase a certain amount of, like, Canadian artists and stuff like that. And you know what? I think you might, now, I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, I loved how mean-spirited it was. I actually started to like it less, and I think what you're talking about might have had an impact. I remember the show started to pivot from them shitting on, like, the videos to just, like, being more about, like, their cross banter. You know what I mean? And it'd be like, oh, Trevor, why are you wearing that crazy sweater? And, like, I guarantee you it was because, like, after the first couple seasons, there were, like, a bunch of record labels being like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck? We're paying you for promotion. Like,
yeah.
But Video on Trial was like it just it's like Beavis and Butthead, but not very funny for the most part. And it is more like my favorite piece of media to ever come from MuchMusic. If you know, you know. If you're watching this and you're waiting for us to bring it up, you're goddamn right we're bringing it up. Fromage.
Bedeviled by bad videos, tormented by celebrity trends, sickened by supercilious superstars. Look up in the sky. This is a job for Ultra Fromage.
Fromage. How could
I
you...
look forward to it the way I looked forward to Christmas Day. I'm not even kidding. I would be so excited for Fromage.
Yeah, it hosted by none other than Ed the Sock. He would just do these. He did what Video and Trial just like it was mean spirited, but it was always just so ridiculous and goofy that it didn't seem like it was like personal attacks. It seems like it was very like I don't know, silly. Like
and it's a puppet, right? It's like the Triumph the Talking comic, which is a rip off of Ed the Sock, quite frankly. But yeah, it's really disarming when it's a puppet with a cigarette in its mouth, like making fun of you with like a pompadour haircut. Like it's,
and it always happened around Christmas time, and they always did the tree toss. They would just chuck the tree off the roof, and it would blow up in the garbage can. Like
they kept escalating how insane. Like it must have been like you're walking by that. And
yeah, I imagine how silly that would have been. Yeah, Ed the Sock was iconic.
I wanted to be Ed the Sock when I was a kid. Like I wanted to grow up to be Ed the Sock, basically.
He eventually like after MuchMusic grew, I think he had like a Tonight Show where he would like
fell off. Yeah, it was like he tried to do like so. Ed the Sock was really good at Fromage, and he was really good at like talking about music and talking to artists for like and like like getting a laugh out of them. But him doing like interviews, and then he started to like insert like his political views into it and stuff, and he actually
nowadays
he ran for like mayor or something. I'm not kidding. Like Ed the Sock ran for, I think, prime minister. The FU party, which stood for Fed Up.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was, yeah, right. Like it's kind of sad because Ed the Sock, like all he had, like Ed the Sock could exist to this day just making fun of music videos, and I'd watch it.
Yeah, he has a channel, and he is trying to bring back kind of like the same magic that MuchMusic had on a YouTube channel where he has VJs. I'll be completely honest. I totally tried it. I tried out for this VJ.
Oh, nice! You should have got it. Well, that sucks. Come on, Ed. We know you're watching.
So I mean, like he's kind of in it's not for me. It's kind of like I appreciate the like effort behind it, but the like it's just not like, you just can't recreate that magic, like as you're just gonna be living in the past. And I mean he was just such a cool VJ. They had so many cool VJs, the MuchMusic. They were like they were a staple of the MuchMusic channel in general. Ed the Sock was always so goofy. He could always make you laugh. But there was also Rick Campanelli, who was like
right?
And I think he started, but
yeah, Rick the Temp was like the meme before memes.
Yeah, and then he was just like the face of the show, and like he was always friendly.
Isn't he on like Hollywood E or like Entertainment Tonight or something like that? I think I saw him on. That's crazy.
He's doing really well, and
good for him,
I mean he obviously made still a good career in TV. So I guess of all the VJs on this list, I mean, there's some heavy hitters near the end there, but I mean, he made a good career of himself. Now, speaking of people trying to make careers of themselves, do you remember the VJ and Amanda Walsh?
I don't. The name sounds really familiar, but I can't picture them in my head.
I'm sure you would recognize the face right away. Now, fun little anecdote. They were always paired with Rick. It was always Rick and Amanda. There was always Rick and Amanda doing. She I think she even was the host of In Your Space, Amanda. But but one thing that's really funny about this is she actually did the pilot for. What's that? Big Bang Theory.
Okay, just a few hours ago, you were completely distraught over the end of your relationship, and now you want to party? That makes no sense.
That makes perfect sense. Allow me to explain it to you in your language. Nerdish.
And she was actually Penny, and they filmed a whole pilot episode with her as Penny, and I think they like pulled out of it at the last moment, and then they went to the Haley Cuoco, Cuomo. They switched her out very last minute, so a VJ that you and I would have known to this day could have had that part, and we would have, to this day, I could have brought up Amanda Walsh, and you would have been like the Big Bang Theory girl, but she didn't get the part, and that's not the case.
That sucks for her, but yeah, no, I was definitely more of like the VJs I mainly remember, like Matt that we were bringing up before, Matt Babel or Babel, whatever, the cheese. That's a joke, right? Put the cheese on screen. The cheese is on screen. And Leia Miller, who I definitely had like a just insane crush on growing up. So.
Of course, and she's married to Dallas Green.
They're still married, right?
Of course.
Do we know that for sure? Or?
Yep, no, I've looked into it recently.
Okay, yeah, no, that's awesome then. And yeah, it's the song. What is it, My Girl or what?
The Girl,
yeah, like famously about her. I remember hearing a story that like the song was like unveiled at their wedding or something. I don't know if that's true, but that's a cute story if it is. So
yeah, it is cute. I remember one time I couldn't even tell you what movie I was seeing, but I went into the theaters and I saw. I've seen Dallas Green and Leia Miller at the movies as well. I wonder if we were together that time, because there's a very good chance that we were. And maybe. And we saw all of Alexis on Fire. It was all Alexis on Fire and then Dallas Green and Leia.
Mm-hmm. I remember just like waving at him, and he just was like, all right.
Bradford Howe was always a funny VJ. He was always like just a silly DJ. I think he had the Bradford show. Like he was just this goofy guy. Like he could get a laugh out of you. I always thought that, I don't think this is the case, but I always thought when I was watching it that he was actually Ed the Sock. Because there was always this like ominous thing about Ed the Sock, because you never knew who he was. It's not the case. He's obviously a different person. You just told me that he was running for something, and I know it's not Bradford Howe, but for some reason I always thought, because they had the very similar silliness and cadence, that they were just so goofy together, and it was just so enjoyable. Do you remember Bradford Howe?
I don't actually. I can't even picture him in my head.
Vomino! From the 45th state. Please welcome Bert and Jeff from the Used.
No, I mentioned before that I wasn't like a huge fan of Tim. Well, I just don't think it was the right job for him. But the first VJ search winner, Devin Saltanique, I really like him. I'm pretty sure he's like he works for like City TV News now or something like that. I know he does like something with the news, I believe, or something like that.
That's cool.
And he was always like the VJ where I felt like he was like the emo kid VJ, you know what I mean? So
was
like,
he?
Yeah, he was the dude with like the blonde swoopy hair and stuff. And he was like, and I remember him like championing Kanye's 80, oh god, that's a bad name now, but championing like 808s and Heartbreak. And I remember like I also fell in love with that album when I came out, and I just remember like feeling like for the first time, like, oh, there's like a VJ who works at MuchMusic who like actually likes like scene music and punk and hardcore and obviously George Stroumboulopoulos, which is like the iconic MuchMusic punk turned successful punk political activist. George is the GOAT. We love George on this show.
He is the reason the punk show. I'm positive
Going
he is the
coastal,
reason.
I think he started.
Much Loud. Like he still has TV shows to this day. He has House of Strombo, which is like a venue of, I don't know if it's his actual house, but I know that our good friend of the show, Corey, went and saw Behemoth play in House of Strombo's, like it was a very intimate setting, and one of the rules that you had to get into the house was you had to be wearing corpse paint.
That's a good rule. I'm just gonna incorporate that rule into my house in general.
All right, yeah. So next time you see us together, when we're doing the pod, we're just gonna be in full corpse paint.
We should actually do it, by the way. It'd be pretty funny.
Love George.
Only the live ones.
And you know what was
otherwise it's just me.
That was always funny about George Stroumboulopoulos as a kid is you always liked saying his Stroumboulopoulos.
Yeah,
you always, like you thought it was legit, not real. But I've looked into it. That's his actual last name.
Oh yeah, it looks like probably like Greek or something. Like I don't want to speculate, but that would be my guess. But yeah, no, it's one of those things too where like even that just feels like, you know, like a setup for you to win. You know what I mean? You just have this like like ludicrous last name that just rolls off the tongue like perfectly, like George Stroumboulopoulos. Are you kidding me? Like, oh my god! Like, yeah, no, he's like,
he's one of the biggest things to come out of MuchMusic.
Absolutely,
for sure. One of them, not the biggest thing though, because the biggest thing to ever come out of MuchMusic is undeniably, and if you've been waiting for us to be talking about this, is obviously Nardwaur, the human Silveriette. He is the GOAT. He is
the greatest music journalist of all time, in my opinion.
To this day, interviewing bands and I don't know if I don't know how he gets all the info.
No, as people who do this now, like his ability to absolutely shock the people he talks to with the knowledge he has. Like I don't think people really get like how crazy what he does is.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of just like he must be talking to like close personal family members. Like this is like if Nardwaur took his like investigative journalism abilities and applied it to like catching criminals, there'd be no crime in Canada. Like he's like a crazy journalist. He has had the same shtick for like 20 years and it works. And out of everyone at MuchMusic, no one has remained even slightly as close to relevant as he has. He just did an interview with Suicide Boys. I've seen him interview Denzel Curry. I've seen him interview like he goes to rap festivals and he talks to all like these new up and coming rappers and stuff. He's so good at having like an ear to like the pulse of what's going on. He has not stayed stagnant in any way, and he raps it all in the most ridiculous and like entertaining personality.
The iconic hat, the doot, like everything about it is just...
It is so fun to watch a Nardwaur video and just watch how an artist will react to the doot, especially like, are they gonna know what it is and have something prepared? Are they gonna like freeze up and not understand what's going on? Like he has like 3 interviews with Tyler the Creator now, and they just get better and better every time those two dudes hang out. Like, God, I love Nardwaur. As someone who like has always been interested in just like journalism in general, and like specifically music journalism, like that was really like what I wanted to do as a kid, was like maybe like write for like, oh God, I wouldn't want to now, but like Revolver or like something like that. You know what I mean? I remember dreaming about like reviewing music, and I mean, I guess I get to do that on the channel now, which is fun. But Nardwaur is like, he's the GOAT. If you're into music journalism, if you nerd out about music and you're into learning little details about artists, and you know, he's the best at it, period.
And what's awesome about watching an Nardwaur interview is, like, if you've seen it, you get excited about it because you know how it's going to go. Or if you haven't seen it, you're just more interested about learning the artist. Like, it goes either way. The replay value is incredible. Shout-outs to Nardwaur. You're honestly probably the biggest influence on reason why we are capturing the Ontario Southern scene. We would love to have you on the show. If that can ever happen, that would be a dream guess.
You're watching, right, Nardwaur?
Yeah, and he has a cool punk band, I think, too.
I've heard that too. Yeah. I mean, he's got it, right. He looks like every ska band member smashed together.
Together, yeah.
Yeah, just all of them at the same time. Yeah, no, Nardwaur's the GOAT. And I mean, I think that like the last, you know, the light on the porch in MuchMusic is Nardwaur's continued success. You know what I mean? It's just, I still look forward to seeing his videos, and like, I don't watch every video or anything like that, but you know, when I see, like, I love, like, oh, how is, you know, someone like Denzel Curry gonna react to a Nardwaur interview? Anthony Fantano and Nardwaur was a cool video together. Like, it's like, it's just entertaining. It's something that doesn't get old, because the artist that he's, you know, interviewing, I guess, or not even really interviewing, he's just handing them records and being like, I know you like this, and they're like, how the fuck do you know this? Like, but like, it's just, he's been doing basically the same thing for 20 years, but because he keeps it fresh and he talks to new exciting artists, it's just never gotten stale. It's just such a tried and true formula. Nardwaur is how do we give him his flowers? Nardwaur is the Chris Hansen of
Yeah, no, he's the Sean Evans, like he's like of Hot One, as like he knows his stuff. Yeah. He is the guy. Like if you need, it's like you said earlier, if you need some investigative journalism, call Nardwaur. Don't call a cop.
1-800-Nardwaur.
And I mean, MuchMusic as a whole is kind of like we touched on it, is a smoldering ash of what it used to be. It is this channel that only plays Cash Cab and South Park, and it's just branded as Much now. It's not even MuchMusic anymore. It's just Much. And like, I don't even think they have a moment in the channel where they actually show much like music videos anymore. And if they do, it's probably for an hour once a week. And
at like 2 a.m.
And like, if people could only, like, if you didn't if you weren't in the time where MuchMusic was alive, and you don't know at all of the things that we were talking about, I hope we did it justice, because it was such a special time, and it was such a magical channel, and like, you really don't even see any of that anymore, whether it's on any channel. Like, TV is essentially null. We're all online. Everybody lives on TikTok and YouTube. So, like, sure, there are channels that exist in that sense, but MuchMusic just had this edge that just will never be able to recapture. And I hope in some sense we're kind of... it influenced us to do this.
Yeah, that's
how we're doing it. And,
that's what I was going to bring up, is that it feels like as music is gone, music is more accessible than ever, but there seem to be less, like, hubs where people, like people come together on, like, Anthony Fantano's channel, or, like, Brad Taste in Music, or, like, you know, like, name your, like, you know, like, there's a handful of, like, successful, like, music YouTubers, but for the most part, like, I miss the days of, like, the B9 boards and the scene boards, and, like, I miss that hub. I miss that feeling of everyone getting together to talk about music. It feels just so much more fragmented now, and I you know, that's really one of, like, I think the goals of this channel is to try to be that Ontario hub for alternative music that, you know, we used to have, like, at least in a little bit. Man, rest in peace to the scene board. Rest in peace to MuchMusic. You know, like, I like Spotify. I've heard so many more artists that I would have never heard if it wasn't for the internet existing and stuff like that. But there was something really just nostalgically beautifully simple about staying up on a Friday till 1 a.m. and having MuchLoud just show me some awesome shit, and getting excited, and going to school on the following weekend and being like, oh my god, have you ever heard Trivium before? I heard this song called Pull Harder on the Strings of Your Martyr, and, like, you're just, like, so infatuated, you know what I mean? I think that, like, music discovery is better than it ever is, but it must feel so much less exciting than it used to be. I think that's my old man take on that. So
for sure. And we'll What'd you think about it? Leave it all down below in the comics. We're going to get into our weekly recommendations. Tyler, what have you been jamming recently?
So we had a pretty big doc this week, so I didn't want to oversaturate it with too much music, but there is a artist out of Vancouver. Their beat production name is Lentra. They got their start making beats for Baby No Money. A lot of, like, early Baby No Money beats are by Lentra. The really rhythmic drum sort of focused ones are. But I'm not here to talk about Lentra necessarily. I'm about to talk about his rap project, which is called CEO at business.net. This is Lentra's rap project. It's like a self-aware, like tongue-in-cheek sort of rap project where he raps about being like the cool dad who lets kids like drink in his basement and everything is like he plays this character of being this like nepo baby who was just like able to pay for like a recording studio and like and the beats are like these really like funk psych like deep bass hits. If you like Baby No Money, like it's very much in like the same vein of that like tongue-in-cheek fun sort of rap stuff. This album just came out August 11th, so this is fresh on the dock like everything else. This is his third release. His first two releases are called, I think it's called like Incentivize Unpaid Overtime. I think that's the number 1 and 2. And this album, I'm recommending his release As Good As It Gets. There's the ding. And check this out, and I would also go back and check out the Incentivize Unpaid Overtime, especially like check out the song Cool Dad President. The song Cool Dad President is one of the funniest songs I've ever heard, and on this album, check out Microdose. Just check it all out. If you like fun tongue-in-cheek rap, if you like Baby No Money, and if you want to, show some love to a Canadian rapper who's not taking themselves too seriously, check out CEO at business.net.
That's awesome. I'll definitely check that out. That's
Great
hilarious. I've been jamming. Now we've brought them up in the past, but they recently actually uploaded their music to Spotify and Apple Music. So I'm talking about Smear Campaign and their record Control Alt Delete. Now, actually, I recently did a dive on this band because I was like, oh my god, this band like. At first it was kind of hard to find, but then when you start remembering some song titles and stuff, like I found their Instagram, and they just recently started uploading stuff, and you're gonna love this, Tyler. They made a whole record and then just shelved it and disbanded, that they uploaded to Apple Music. I haven't even had a chance to listen to it yet because I've just been soaked in nostalgia with this Control Alt Delete record with songs like Mascara, there's something like I'm so bad with song titles, but like The Violence Underground and like, oh man, this was perfect emo like synth wave. This was before this was before its time. Like I feel like if a band like this existed, they could very well freaking succeed. And this was great. I saw this band live. I had a pink shirt by them.
Yeah, I had the same shirt. The I forget what it was. It's like a guy standing. Yeah, they were kind of like the Killers before the Killers.
Yeah. Or like if the Killers existed, this was like the more emo version of it. Mm-hmm. Like instead of like it. Yeah. So if you're into something like that, check out the Smear Campaign's Control Alt Delete. And Tyler, check out their latest release because I don't know what it's called, but who knows? Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad.
Well, I guess we'll tune in next time to find out whether it's good or bad. We should definitely add that to the doc for the next show. I'm gonna second Phil there. The Smear Campaign slaps. I loved this band, and as someone who was definitely at that time way more into heavy stuff than emo stuff, this was one of my favorite bands when it came to the bands that would regularly play Red Square and L3. The Smear Campaign, they always reminded me of Death from Above in a way that I can't explain. Mm-hmm. They felt similar. It's fashion-y sex punk. Just super sick. I also recommend the Smear Campaign.
Right on, folks. So if you aren't already, make sure that you're following us on Instagram. Give this page a sub. Give this video a like. Helps us in the long run. Always do that good thing. And go Bills.